Dune Part 2 is directed by Denis Villeneuve. I apologize if I can't pronounce his name correctly. And stars Timothy Chalamet. Again, sorry if I can't get his name right. Zendaya, Josh Brolin, and among others. And in this story, it picks up right at the end of Dune Part 1, where the House of Atreides is having to help Arrakis from having to fight the House of Harkonnen. And I apologize, I can't pronounce the correct name, how you pronounce the actual house. So my apologies for some of these names I get. And basically, it's up to him pretty much being a leader to the people for the Freemen as they prepare for war. And along the way, it's dealing with pretty much kind of a coming-of-age story with Paul trying to be getting to his relationship with not only his mother more, but also with Zendaya's character as they go along with trying to be the leader for the people. And kind of like it kind of takes kind of a religious kind of spirituality type of approach with this character. And along the way, we also get to see more of the expansions of other characters that come into play, including the Emperor that's played by Christopher Walken, and also Austin Butler's villain character in this that's also trying to have his own thing going on. I'll leave it there because there's some other things I don't really want to get into any kind of detail with. So there's some other stuff that I can't really go into much without having to spoil. So, but basically, it becomes all-out war with with Arrakis and trying to go after the Emperor and everything. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, this movie was directed by Denis Villeneuve, and I'm sorry if I can't get his name correctly. And what can I say? He's become one of my favorite directors of the current modern age with movies that I've loved, including Prisoners, Sicario, the first Dune, and Blade Runner 2049, and also Arrival. And I haven't seen his other films that he did, like Enemy and some earlier work, but ever since I've seen him do movies like Prisoners and so on for a while, I've just really got a kick out of his work and the way that he's also been telling these type of sci-fi type movies like he did with Blade Runner 2049. And while I still to this day haven't read the book that Dune is based on, because I hear it is a very complex book to really kind of read, and also it's got a series of other novels in the franchise. One of these days, if I ever take the time to actually read the book, I could probably get more of an interpretation of how the current movies do follow the storyline and everything. But I also do remember watching a little bit of the David Lynch version from the 80s, but I can't judge that one because I only saw like maybe bits and pieces of it, so that's still one to me that I may check out out of curiosity. But I was also kind of avoiding watching that one because seeing how it basically tried to tell the whole story in a little over 2 hours, I didn't really want to get spoiled going into this one because this is supposed to cover basically the second half of the first novel by Dune. So if I didn't want to really get myself watching certain spoilers if I was going into this one. So that's why I haven't seen that's part of the reason why I haven't seen the original version from Lynch. But with that being said, though, I was really looking forward to this movie because everything that I really enjoyed with the first one, especially with the way they did all the world building and stuff, and the way that they were able to, make it a lot more easier to follow than what I thought it would be, was really good. And a lot of the characters and everything that was, surrounding the atmosphere and the kick-ass score from Hans Zimmer, it was everything I really wanted to see out of an epic sci-fi movie like that. And yes, to my surprise, after upon finally getting hyped and seeing this one, this blew me away. Like I was so thrilled with this movie to a T, and this is definitely going to be one of my favorite films of the year. And to get my pros out of the way, what can I say? The cast in this are all phenomenal. Timothy, I think, is still growing as a really great actor. I've really enjoyed a lot of his films, especially, surprised enough, with Wonka last year. That surprised me. And also his other films that he's done, like the first Dune. And there's some other ones I still need to check out. But from what I've seen him in other movies, I hear that he's a really talented actor. And so there's more of his stuff I need to really check out and stuff. But he really shines here. And he really, really has a very type of commanding presence that grows on me later on in the film, because I can't go into spoilers, but there's something else there's kind of a sort of something that really like gets to him where he becomes a leader later on that I think also has an impact of the way that it plays on to his character in this. And his relationship that he builds with Zendaya in this I thought was very strong too, and they have really great chemistry together. I'm not always like the biggest fan of Zendaya, but ever since I've seen her evolve into other stuff like the later Spider-Man sequels like Far From Home and No Way Home, I think that I've really, grown with her as an actress, because I remember when I first saw her in Homecoming, I wasn't really too big on her performance in that one, but ever since then, she's really evolved as an actress that I've really, gotten into, and she really shines here, and the rest of the cast are all great as usual, especially Warwick Bardem, who's playing, the one that's part of the Freeman Society and everything. That's kind of the leader of them and everything. He was actually cracking me up at times, where he had some kind of humor that was unintentionally hilarious at times, and just the way that he plays it off, it let the smile on my face every time he was on screen. So he was great, and then also Josh Brolin's also great in this, coming back. You also got, Christopher Walken was a great casting choice with him playing the Emperor and stuff, and it's great to see him in a big movie again in the theaters, and I was so glad to see him, because he does have a really great presence throughout, and while he may not be on screen too long, because from what I also heard, the Emperor doesn't really have much of a big role in the book, but when he is on screen, it's always a blast seeing Christopher Walken, and he really pulls it off. And then there's also, of course, Rebecca Chastain playing Jessica in this, again, like she did in the first one, and I really enjoyed her performance in this, and she really, they expand a lot more of her character in this to when they're settling down and preparing for war and everything. There's a big plot point with her character that leads into something big with Timothy's character later on that, like I said earlier, I won't spoil, but it has a lot to do with, trying to build steps and taking control of being the leader for the people. And on top of that, what can I say with the cinematography? Outstanding, especially all the scenes in the desert. One of the biggest standouts for me the most, and I'll get to Austin Butler in a minute, but I got to really appreciate the planet that he's introduced on, where it's all in black and white and stuff. Man, it felt like I was watching, those, it was like, how do I describe it? It was like watching Gladiator in like black and white form, if that makes sense. Like it really, it keeps it that kind of like epic scale, because it's also shot in IMAX and everything. And this whole fight scene that Austin Butler is in, where he's, trying to survive and stuff, I thought was really brutal. And they really pushed it for it being a PG-13 movie. And Austin Butler, like, I've only really seen him a couple movies, especially with him playing Elvis, and then also from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I really admire him as an actor, and it's really like night and day from watching him from Elvis and going into this movie. Like, he is vicious as hell in this. Like, he definitely, when he's on screen, like, he just, kills people for the sake of it at times, and he just has such a really intimidating presence on screen that I really felt myself, engaged and wondering where it was going to go. Especially there's one part that I thought he was going to do something really big on when another character shows up that I won't spoil. I was like, damn, I was already feeling the intensity every time that he was on screen. So he was fantastic. And then also the score by Hans Zimmer, fantastic. Everything that I really loved from the first one with the theme song and everything, it is up to a T with this one, with the epic music that really gets me that very, upbeat war vibe and stuff, and just the atmosphere it plays into with a lot of the scenes, especially when, we're dealing with like the weird kind of, not really artistic scenes. I don't really want to know how to describe it like that. It's more of like the feeling of, being in the desert and stuff, and the way that it kicks into gear with the music. It definitely has a kind of like trippy kind of feel at times, but in a good way. And the action scenes in this, they are really skyrocket, especially when we get to a climax that takes place that I will have a little minor con with, and that mainly has to do with some of the ways that it felt kind of short. But with that being said, though, the action itself is still very top-notch. Like, it's everything that was great from the first one to a T, especially when we can see more of the sandworms in this, and the CGI was rendered very well. It really plummets with a lot of the stuff that evolves with its story. And, anytime that we see the sandworms going and stuff, I was really curious how it was going to play out, because they really promoted it in the trailers and also on the poster and everything, and they do have a pretty cool payoff toward the end of it with its climax. I mean, there's more I could really go into detail, but I mean, this movie it succeeded everything that I loved from the first one and expanded a lot of cool stuff that I really enjoy, and this is definitely how you do a sequel the right way. Now, if I'm going to get into any kind of minor little cons, I will say that, and this may have something to do with maybe the pacing, or maybe the director had to cut out some things, but I was never bored by the film, but it really felt like there were times where toward the end, there were some scenes that feel like when we get to the climax that feel like they could have went on a little longer than expected. Because while the action is really fun, the way it plays it out with getting to everything, it does feel like some things get very resolved very fast. And I think that was either probably unintentional on the director's part, because from what I also read recently was that there were some deleted scenes that he unfortunately had to cut out, and there was probably some stuff lit for time to where he had to keep it under 3 hours, and that is kind of a shame because it really feels like the climax could have went just a tad bit longer to really feel a bigger impact. But with that being said, though, it still worked, and it also had a great payoff that really gets me pumped for the next one, because from what I also hear is that the next one will be based supposedly more on the other novel that was the follow-up to the first Dune book. So I am prepared for that, but with that being said, this is everything that I love so much and will definitely go down as one of my favorites of the year. It is a masterclass of sci-fi that, done right, of sci-fi that I really love, and it's you can see all the influences if you read the book of Dune, you can see all the influences of Star Wars all over the place too. So, and with that, I'm gonna give Dune Part 2 a phenomenal grade on the Film Freaks meter. So, for those of you who have also seen Dune Part 2 and also the first film and also the book that it's based on, let me know in the comments of what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.